Good morning, all of you. I would just first, if I may, say some words about this topic more generally, because I think that first of all we have to remember one thing: the situation we have today is not new. That is the first and very important. We always have a tendency to think that things have become so much worse and so much more difficult. Important literature has always been a marginalized phenomenon. If you look at literature from a historical point of view, the last 200 years, I would say that 95% of all the bestsellers, at the same time, in their time, famous writers have totally disappeared. Nobody knows their names anymore. They are like bread. You eat them and then you have forgotten. You get very fast hungry. While when you eat a good book, you feel that you have something you will not forget. As if you eat a really good meal in a restaurant, you remember that, don't you? But the important and serious literature, films, paintings, always takes time to see or to understand. So when we are talking about protection of culture and of literature, I think what we really mean, we want to protect, we want to support quality, right? And that has always been difficult. My father's generation, he was a painter. He lived with painters in Paris from 1919 to 1939. Many of his friends, they died of hunger, including Joan, for instance, the famous Russian painter. They simply died of hunger. There were no any safety nets anywhere. And many writers lived and died in misery. So when we talk about our times as so difficult, I think we are slightly spoiled. Because as a matter of fact, we have more security nets, social security nets in Europe today than we have ever had before in history. I think sometimes it's good to stop and think about this. And the same thing goes when I would like to say something about European Union, who is, of course, something we all can criticize and should criticize. As John said yesterday, it's the same sign of health to criticize. But, as a matter of fact, this bureaucracy we always like to smile a little ironical about is, even for us in the cultural world, a safety net. And the promotion of the small literatures, which of course has to be strengthened, not to disappear, is also a concern of Brussels, whether you believe it or not. And it's also a concern of many administrations around Europe today. They think seriously about it. I myself, as you know, come from a very little population. We are less than 5 million people, 4.7 million people in Norway. But we have a very strong literature, I would say. I do not talk so much about quality because that you can never. I think it's high quality what is done there. But first of all, it is many voices. And when you have many voices, you also get many small voices, right? But that is, the small trees are necessary in the wood. And without all these different writers who are being promoted to write and get the help to come out, the culture and literature as such is suffering. And that is why I think that we ourselves, in our even International Pen, and when we have our literary festivals, what I get slightly upset about is that when you present the writers who are taking part in these events, it's only two things about them you learn from the program: how many bestsellers they have and how many prizes they have won. Not one single word about what kind of literature they are writing. You don't know anything about it, just that they have sold a lot of books. That doesn't mean anything, as a matter of fact. So this is something where we could do something to improve ourselves, in my opinion. And last but not least, I would say that we are talking about the death of the small cultures and the death of the small languages. But as a matter of fact, I think that the small languages and the small literature from the small countries are much more persistent than you think. I remember when I was young, we always learned that ballet and opera was two kind of arts which will disappear within 20 years. I would say that both ballet and opera is more alive today than it was when I was 20 years old. And I think it's the same. I have always heard that the novel is a dying art. I don't believe it for a second. I think the novels have been invented to stay, and it will improve. And we have all these small publishers in Europe, in all the countries. It pops up small publishing houses who are really trying to go against the stream and to try to publish interesting, wonderful, new literature from all over the world. For instance, in Sweden today, we have 3 different publishers who are specialized on literature from Arab world. And if you compare, let's say, 20 years ago and today, we have many more writers from outside Europe who have become well known in our part of the world than we had before. What I, on the other hand, are slightly worried about is that we are not taking care of our own close environment. Italian literature, for instance, is very difficult to find in Scandinavia today, except for some very few like Umberto Eco and some bestsellers. The same goes for Eastern European literature. And even French literature, can you imagine, which is, I think, is very approaching. And that is, of course, because of the Anglo-American dominance, which is the concern. It's a huge concern today. And that's why I applaud when Philip says that we have to protect our own film industry, we have to protect ourselves, because that is cultural imperialism of the most vulgar type. And there is when the market comes into the play, into my speech, because the market is a vulgar forum, a marketplace where you sell a lot of garbage. I do not want to be elitistic now, but I still think that, and I also agree that you find both bestsellers and you find soaps or whatever who has something to give you. Sometimes when I look at an American soap, I think, wow, they picked up something here. I don't think that if they know it themselves, but really, you can find something even there. You can find something everywhere, can't you? But as a rule, I think there are the danger is that they control and they press down the rest. And last but not least, we have a limited time, all of us. It's a limited amount of writing and art we can consume during a year. And we have an enormous possibility to when you go into the bookstores today, I mean, you have kilometers of books. That is our problem. But as you can understand, what I would like to say is that I am more optimistic than many, and that I really believe both in the small languages, in the small literatures. And I will end by a quote from one of these writers from a small literature who actually managed to get through the wall and got the kind of reputation. He said, the majority is always wrong. His name was Henry Gibson. Thank you.